What's up, people? Pels is back. Today, we're going to be talking about the top picks. Now, my recommendations, what you should get for your first car. The great thing about the cars I'm going to be chatting about is they're all under 3K and they're all under 10 years old. And even during this or after this video, you're still considering, do I buy a new car or a used car? Check out the video I done where I talk about the benefits between having a new car and an old car. So you've got cars like the Fiat Panda, the Nissan Micra, and if you really want to go as far as a Citroen C2, be my guest, but I wouldn't bother. My favourite would probably be the Ford Fiesta. That's probably the most popular car the lads would actually go for. So, not a bad looking car. The Ford Fiesta definitely is probably the most popular car in the UK. And not bad to look at, pretty good on fuel. You can get them in 3-door or 5-door. You're looking at roughly £30 for road tax. Insurance Group 7 on the 1.2 model, is that right, Marcus? 1.2. Average cost to fill up, £52. Like I say, most of these cars are going to be about £40 to £50 to fill up. All these cars we talk about today. Don't forget, when you're buying your car, you must include your road tax and your insurance. Don't forget to put that in your budget. The difference between the petrol and the diesel engines, you're probably looking about 500 squid. And by that, I mean the petrol will be 500 quid cheaper. With a Fiesta, the interior isn't too bad. Whether you're short or tall, it'll be actually pretty good for absolutely anybody. The good thing about the car is if you're the designated driver, you've got plenty of room for 5 people in the car. Also got a pretty big boot, which is handy. In my opinion, the Fiesta is pretty good, looks pretty good on insurance, good on fuel. But the thing is, there's so many models out there. So depending on if you've bought a car with high mileage, you might actually get a newer model and it might be a lot cheaper, but it's already got high mileage. Depending on which model you get, you could potentially get good stuff inside, like a good radio, probably get the aux connection as well. I mean, you can put your tunes on, and if you're really lucky, depending on which model, again, you could get Bluetooth. The groovy thing about Bluetooth, obviously, is the fact that anybody could connect to the car. So even with 5 people in the car, it's all good. Play whatever music you want. And the thing about most phones now is you don't get that lovely headphone connection anymore, do you? So most things run on Bluetooth. So the Fiesta, definitely a go-to car for your first car. With the Fiesta, in my opinion, pretty cool car for a first car. I would have liked one, to be honest. Now, let's move on to something a little bit different. Let's talk about the girly cars, shall we? Let's talk about the Fiat 500. Now, I'm sure if I was a lady, I'd love it. Not my personal preference, but for the girls, I think it's a brilliant car for them. Looks good. It's nice and small as well, so you can maneuver quite easily. I mean, most of my female people say, I really want a Fiat 500 as my first car. With the Fiat 500s, they can be a little bit pricey. However, if you do look around, I'm sure you can find one for under 3K, because I did. Great features with the Fiat 500. We're talking low insurance, Group 5, a 1.2 engine. A 1.2 engine, which unfortunately only has 4 seats. However, cheap to run, cheap on the fuel, cheap insurance, cheap tax, nice and tiny. It's like a little go-kart, really, especially for you girlies. With the Fiat 500, they do a convertible version. We'll be lucky to find one of them under 3K, but you never know. Have a look. I mean, 58 miles per gallon isn't bad, is it really? Let's think about it. And you're probably talking between, once again, £40 to £50 to fill up that little Fiat. A bonus, if it's a bonus, you could be a part of the Fiat 500 Twitter group. I mean, Fiat 500 lifestyle, it's not just a phrase, it's life. Compared to most other cars, you know, the slightly older cars, with the Fiat 500 inside, the interior is pretty good, to be honest. I mean, if you're 6 foot tall, it's not going to work, but inside the car, it's quite smart. You've got lots of cream, lots of chrome, and sometimes a little bit of leather in there if you're lucky. Yes. So the Fiat 500, not a bad car. Let's talk about the Swift. The Swift. You remember the Swift, right? That's what we done on All-Star Driving School. Lovely little car to drive, handles quite well, looks okay. It's pretty much an all-round good car. Like, I'm going to say it again, repeating myself, but it's very good on fuel, good on insurance, just like all these cars I am going to be talking about. So I don't want to repeat myself too much. The Swift does come in a 1.2 and a 1.3 litre engine. With the Swift, the insurance group is slightly higher. It's on Group 8. It does have 5 seats, though, so you can get at least 5 people in the car. Most of the people who drove the Swift generally didn't have many problems with the car, so definitely a good option for your first car. So with a car that looks pretty good inside, pretty much box standard, but just what you want for your first car, really. It's quite a nippy car as well, so it can get you about, no speeding. With my experience through the show and teaching a lot of people in the Swift how to drive, it's a pretty good car to have. The Swift might not be the most amazing car. It's pretty much box standard car, but it's a good starting point for you for your first car. If you really want to go for the Swift Sport, even better if you've got a little bit more money. Other than cars like the Mini, for example, let's talk about that. So the Swift, all a good car. good all-rounder. Let's talk about the Mini. With the Mini, who doesn't like Minis? You know, you've got Mr. Bean had a Mini, you know, Italian job, purely British, but Italian job. With the Mini, not so much British anymore. They're made by BMW, so you're getting some bit of German in you. Now, with the German cars, they're very reliable. Very, very reliable. So it's always a good start because you're pretty much getting a 1 Series in a Mini, which is pretty good. Actually, that's awesome. With the Minis, they pretty much only come in the 1.6 litre engines. Insurance Group 8 is still going to cost you 50 quid to fill up. So slightly more expensive on the running costs with the insurance and probably the fuel. The road tax is also £125 per year. The Minis come in a 1.4 and a 1.6 litre engine, so they're a little bit higher in the engine, which means the insurance might be slightly higher. And of course, the running cost for the fuel is going to be higher. In the Minis, it's pretty much Marmite. It's either you love them or you hate them, and you could be in the middle, but you've got a lot of circles in there. The styling's a lot more interesting, but it's either you like it or you don't. I like it. Even though the car is a Mini, the newer shape Mini, not sort of the old classic ones that are really tiny, ones that Mr. Bean used to drive, but the newer ones now, they do have a little bit more room in them, so it's not too bad. Me personally, don't have a lot of experience with the Minis, except the ex-girlfriend used to drive one. Let's not go into that one. But let's go into a car that is fantastic, the Peugeot 208. I mean, look at this. Outside the car, they look awesome to me. They look reasonably sporty. This is the car that I do own, and I use it for my driving instructing every single day, and it's never let me down. It has let me down, but only minimally. Nothing major has gone wrong with the car. It's great to drive. I like how it has a speedo in the middle, so you've got your normal needle, and you also got a little square. Watch the mic out. See, I'm getting too big these days. You've got a little square, which comes up an LED screen, tells you how fast you're going in the numbers, which is pretty cool. Inside the car, it's really comfortable. Seats, lovely and soft. And also with the Peugeot 208, you have a tiny little steering wheel compared to most. So it actually feels like you're driving a little go-kart because the wheel is so small. They're laughing, but it's true. You've got the petrol and the diesel models. They range in the engine sizes again. I personally have a 1.4 diesel. It definitely gets over 50 miles per gallon. I fill up about £50 in the tank. So roughly the same about the rest of them. In regards to driving the car itself, it's a very smooth drive. I'm going to know more about this car because it's mine, of course. Visibility in the car is great. With Peugeots, they do have quite a big blind spot. Even though the vision is great, they'd have a big blind spot down the side of the car, which isn't good. But, you know, if you're observing out of the car properly, then you shouldn't have a problem. None of my learners have a problem driving the car, to be honest. When sometimes I have a pupil come from another driving school, they'll come in the car and they'll say how easy it is to drive compared to their old one. Sometimes this can be personal preference, so it's not always right. But most people say they love driving the car. If you're lucky enough, my car has 0 road tax, so I don't have to pay nothing for it at all. If you get the 1.4 petrol model, then you're probably going to have to pay something little like £30. So apart from the Fiesta, which is obviously one of the most popular cars in the UK, I would go for the Peugeot 208 because one, I've had it for 5 years. It's such a great car to drive. It's definitely a good all-rounder. Anyway, let's talk about the Vauxhall Corsa. The Corsa has loads of different models, so you don't really... Well, you could get any model, really, for that money. Corsa doesn't really have many amazing features. Depends on the model, I guess. Quite sporty looking with the newer shape models. I think you can get the 1.2 limited edition model, which actually looks really sporty with nice alloy wheels. And once again, only a 1.2 litre engine. With the insurance going to be cheaper, and it might not be as fast, but it definitely looks good. You're not going to get many bells and whistles with this bad boy, all right? You're going to get the basic FM radio, aux lead, unless you get a brand new model, of course, which we're not talking about that because we ain't got 16 grand in the bank. This car comes in all different shapes and sizes. It comes in all different colours. If you've really got the money, you can even get a Nürburgring version. You're talking about 20 odd grand. Overall then, the Corsa, pretty good car for your first car. Because there's so many, you know, get yourself down a dealership and check them out. Get in the car, see how it feels. Because they are so popular, you might want to look around because you might actually find one really cheap. Let's talk about the Germans, the Volkswagen Polo. With the Polos, great looking car. From what I hear, not many bad things to say about the car, so that's good. You've got the usual stuff, nice small engine, good on insurance. They look good. The engines come from 1 litre to 1.4, 5 seats, nice and cheap to fill up, cheap on insurance. Be surprising as well how big the boot is as well for a small car. Inside, plenty of room. Like I said, there's 5 seats and you get all your friends in there too. Most of the hatchbacks you get, sometimes you can have a bit less leg room. With the Polos, they've got very good leg room. With the slightly newer Polos, I feel like they've got more of a modern look compared to some of the other hatchbacks we've been looking at for the price you're going to pay. Once again, German manufacturers, they've been known to be very reliable. Remember, we're talking about cars that are all potentially under £3,000. So if you're going to buy your first car, you want it to be reliable. You know, you buy a cheap car, it breaks down every month. It's not very good. But, you know, do your research, look for a good car. And if it might just go all year for your first year. You never know. Disclaimer, though, remember, all cars go wrong, no matter what I say. The car could have some great features, things like rear parking sensors, great Bluetooth options, sat navs inside. But then again, this all comes down to how much money you have and if you can find a good deal. Just in general, with everything I just talked about, make sure you have a look at all the different trim variants they have. What I mean by trim levels is what the manufacturers use to identify what the car has, pretty much how good it is, from the bottom to the top. So out of all the cars I've talked about, they are definitely the ones I would recommend to you for your first car. I mean, you've got my car there, which I love and I still have now. But then again, it comes down to personal preference. What do you like the look of, you know? I like the way my car drives personally, and it looks good because I put all my stickers over it, of course. It's got pels all over it. It's going to look good. Your top ones there, you know, the girls usually go for the Fiat 500. For the girls, I actually really like it, so it's good. Then you've got the Fiesta and the Corsa. The top three there and mine. We've got 4 good cars there. The Peugeot 208, the Ford Fiesta, the Vauxhall Corsa, and the Fiat 500. So if you're worried or you've got any comments or you're generally scared about what to do when you're buying your first car, I've done the video on what to look for when you're buying your first car, so check it out. So after talk about all those, what would be your top pick out of all those cars? Let me know in the comments below. Just don't let it be a Nissan Micra. No, just don't do that. Or Panda. No, don't get one of them. So if you like the video, give it a like. You know what to do. Subscribe to the channel, baby. If you're looking for a driving instructor or you know someone who is, get on the Get Driving website and you can compare every single driving instructor in your local area.